A very good morning. Welcome to this edition of News for the Hearing Impaired. I'm Rukma and with me is Sonia. Let's begin with the headlines. Union Health Minister Dr. Harshwardhan says no fresh COVID case in 80 districts over the last 7 days, while the doubling rate of infection has reduced to 10.9 days in last 2 days. Says manufacturing of PPE kits has started in the country. Active cases of COVID-19 in India crosses 22,000 with 937 deaths reported from across the country. Over 7,000 patients cured and discharged. Prime Minister Narendra Modi discusses COVID-19 pandemic with Indonesian President Joko Widodo and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau over phone. Says close cooperation between India and these countries will be important in dealing with the challenges posed. Global tally of confirmed cases goes past 31 lakh with over 2 lakh 16,000 deaths. United States worst hit with over 58,000 deaths, followed by Italy, Spain and France. US President Donald Trump announces state of Texas will start reopening businesses in phases from coming Friday. Says many states moving to reopen safely and quickly. Union HRD Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank announces midday meal or its equivalent food security allowance will be provided to children even during summer vacations. During video conference with state education ministers, Union Minister says decision will benefit about 11.5 crore children. Finance Minister says Congress is misleading willful defaulters, bad loans and write-offs. Says willful defaulters get benefit from UPA's phone banking. Says Modi government is pursuing willful defaulters and total value of attachment and seizures in Nirav Modi, Mehul Choksi and Vijay Mallya cases is over 18,330 crore rupees. India is making progress in combating the coronavirus outbreak. The government is constantly monitoring all activities and making changes in rules and policies to ensure optimal use is made of available resources. Various union ministers held meetings on Tuesday to review functioning in their respective ministries. Health Minister Dr. Harshwardhan reviewed the current status of COVID surveillance in Delhi with LG of Delhi, Delhi Health Minister and other officials through video conferencing. Dr. Harshwardhan also held meetings with autonomous institutions and PSUs under Department of Biotechnology through video conferencing. He briefed about the current situation of COVID-19 in the country. He said that no fresh case was reported in 80 districts since last 7 days. 17 districts have not reported a case for the last 28 days.
80 districts in India have not reported a fresh case since the last 7 days. 47 districts have not reported a case for the last 14 days. 39 districts have not reported a case for the last 21 days. And 17 districts have not reported a case for the last 28 days.
The Health Minister also highlighted a further decline in the doubling rate. For the last 14 days, he said the doubling rate is 8.7. For the last 7 days, it has been 10.2 days. In the last 3 days, it is 10.9 days.
So there is a doubling rate which is a very significant and powerful indicator of how the things are happening. So pre-lockdown, our doubling rate of cases was around 3 days. But when I talk to you today, for the last 14 days our doubling rate had been 8.7, and for the last 7 days it had been 10.2, and today for the last 3 days when we calculate it is roughly 10.9. So I think that's a very, very significant progress.
He added that India will be able to produce RT-PCR and antibody test kits within the country by May. This will help India achieve a target of 1 lakh tests per day by the 31st of May.
मई के महीने में हम देश को अपने भारत में ही वैज्ञानिकों की सहायता से रिसर्च करके और RT-PCR की किट और इसी प्रकार से एंटीबॉडी टेस्ट की किट, ये दोनों चीज़ें जो है हम भारत के अंदर ही का प्रोडक्शन जो है करके और भारत की रिक्वायरमेंट्स को पूरा करने में काफ़ी हद तक मई के महीने में सक्षम होंगे। सब चीज़ें एडवांस्ड स्टेज में हैं। बहुत जल्दी ICMR की क्लियरेंस होते ही विद इन ए वीक वो सब चीज़ें प्रोडक्शन स्टेज में चली जाएंगी। जैसा कि हमारा टारगेट है कि 31 मई तक हम 1 लाख टेस्ट देश में करना चाहते हैं हर रोज़। उस टारगेट को अचीव करने में भी ये डेवलपमेंट हमें बहुत मदद करेगी।
And IT Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad also had an interaction with IT ministers of all states. He said an app is being prepared to share best practices of states to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic.
सारे स्टेट्स और यूनियन टेरिटरीज के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स थे 35, तो इट वाज अ वेरी फ्रूटफुल मीटिंग। कोविड के कारण जो चैलेंजेस हैं इस पर उन्होंने डिस्कस किया। बिहार के डिप्टी सीएम सुशील मोदी का यह आग्रह था कि एक ऐप बनाया जाए जिसमें सभी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस को शेयर किया जाए। NEGD and NIC have agreed to prepare an app in 3 days time जो सेफ एंड सिक्योर होगा और इस पर सारे स्टेट के बेस्ट इनिशिएटिव जो कोविड में लिए गए हैं, फ्रॉम डिजिटल पेमेंट टू एप्स टू अदर सर्विसेज, तो उसको हम इसको लोड करेंगे।
Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh reviewed contribution of Defence Public Sector Undertaking Units and Ordnance Factory Board to fight COVID-19 and their operational plans. Union HRD Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank also held a meeting via video conferencing with state education ministers and discussed issues related to COVID-19 and midday meal program. He said that the complete syllabus of CBSE and NCERT is available on Diksha portal.
CBSE NCERT का पूरा पाठ्यक्रम दीक्षा पोर्टल पर आपको मिल जाएगा। एक राज्य को छोड़कर के देश के सभी राज्यों ने दीक्षा पोर्टल पर अपने को जोड़ा है और वो विद्यादान 1 करके हम लोगों ने इसको शुरू किया था और मुझे इस बात को कहते हुए बहुत खुशी है, दीक्षा पोर्टल के माध्यम से हम पूरे देश के छात्रों को दे पा रहे हैं।
The HRD Minister also announced that midday meal or its equivalent food security allowance will be provided to children even during summer vacations. This will meet the nutritional requirements of the eligible children under midday meal scheme in order to safeguard their immunity, which is very vital during the COVID-19 outbreak, and will benefit about 11.5 crore children studying in classes 1 to 8 in 11.34 lakh schools across the country. The central government will provide additional funds of about 958 crore rupees and 3 lakh metric ton of food grains worth approximately 990 crore rupees towards this. Active cases of COVID-19 in India stand at 22,010 with 937 deaths reported from across the country, while 7,026 patients cured and discharged, said the Health Ministry yesterday in its daily briefing. India's recovery rate has climbed to a further 23.3%, with 684 patients recovering in the last 24 hours. It was also informed that the government has issued new self-isolation guidelines where only mild, pre-symptomatic people are considered fit for self-quarantine. Anyone under home quarantine has to be monitored closely. The Health Ministry has further said that plasma therapy is in its early stages in India, where it is simply being experimented upon. So far, there is no evidence that it can be used for treatment. It has also not been approved by ICMR for treatment as yet. Minister of Road Transport and Highways Nitin Gadkari has called upon all states and union territories to take urgent action so that blockades of trucks and lorries at interstate and union territory borders is cleared at the earliest possible. As smooth movement of essential goods to various parts of the country is essential, this, he said, needs to be given urgent attention by facilitating the truck movement to ease up the lives of the public in light of lockdown announced to curb the COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking at the meeting of states and union territories, road transport ministers meet held via video conference, Gadkari urged ministers to intervene in such matters and ensure resolutions through local and district administrations. He further pointed out that transportation of labor to factories and workplaces may be facilitated by duly following the health protocols of maintaining minimum 1 meter distance, wearing masks and use of sanitizers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke on phone yesterday with President of Indonesia, Joko Widodo. The two leaders exchanged thoughts about the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic in the region and the world. The Indonesian president appreciated the facilitation provided by the government of India for supplies of pharmaceutical products to Indonesia. Prime Minister Modi assured him that India would do its best to prevent disruption in supplies of medical products or other commodities traded between the two countries. The leaders discussed issues related to their citizens present in each other's countries and agreed that their teams would remain in touch to ensure all possible facilitation in this regard. Prime Minister underlined the fact that Indonesia is an important maritime partner in India's extended neighborhood, and the strength of the bilateral relationship would help both countries in fighting the effects of the pandemic. He also conveyed greetings for the holy month of Ramadan to President Widodo and to the friendly people of Indonesia. Prime Minister also exchanged thoughts with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. In a tweet, the Prime Minister said, I quote, "Had a warm exchange with PM Justin Trudeau, thanked him for looking after Indian citizens in Canada in these difficult times. Collaboration and partnership between India and Canada is vital to fighting the pandemic, including through medical research and supply chain management." BRICS ministers of Foreign Affairs and International Relations held a meeting via video conferencing under the current BRICS chair, Russia. Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Sergei Lavrov, chaired the meeting. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar represented India. This video conference was convened in the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. The discussion centered around the COVID-19 crisis, its impact, and the BRICS response. The BRICS foreign ministers also discussed activities to be undertaken under Russian BRICS chairmanship in 2020. Dr. S. Jaishankar highlighted the initiatives and various decisive steps taken early by India in the wake of the pandemic, including through Arogya Setu Citizen App and Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Package. He apprised the BRICS foreign ministers about the initiative to coordinate efforts to contain COVID-19 in South Asia and the creation of COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund by the SAARC countries. The minister emphasized that the current challenge underlines The need for reform of multilateral systems and reformed multilateralism is a way forward for the world. A virtual meeting of BRICS health officials is envisaged on COVID-19 pandemic on the 7th of May to take the discussion forward. The 11th session of Petersberg Climate Dialogue witnessed India along with 30 other countries deliberating over ways and means to tackle the challenge of reinvigorating economies and societies after COVID-19. Representing India in the first virtual Petersberg Climate Dialogue, Union Minister for Environment, Forests and Climate Change, Prakash Javadekar said, "Today, as the world is unitedly engaged in finding a vaccine for novel coronavirus, likewise, we should have climate technology as open source, which must be available at affordable cost." Stressing on the issue of climate finance, Javadekar said the world now needs more. The Union Minister advocated for the plan of $1 trillion in grants to develop the world immediately. The Union Minister highlighted that COVID-19 has taught us we can survive on less. The world must think of adopting more sustainable consumption patterns in line with requirement of sustainable lifestyles. The Asian Development Bank has approved a $1.5 billion loan to the Government of India to help fund its response to the COVID-19 pandemic, including support for immediate priorities such as disease containment and prevention, as well as social protection for the poor and economically vulnerable sections of society, especially women and the disadvantaged. In a press release, the bank said, ADB is fully committed to supporting the Government of India in its response to this unprecedented challenge. The Quick Disbursing Fund is part of a larger package of support that ADB will provide in close coordination with the government and other development partners. Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman criticized Congress leader Rahul Gandhi for misleading people by sensationalizing facts and taking reports out of context. In a series of tweets, the finance minister said provisions are made for NPAs as per the 4-year provisioning cycle laid down by the RBI. Upon full provisioning being done, banks write off the fully provided NPA but continue to pursue recovery against the borrower. No loan is waived off. Dissecting certain high-profile cases, Sitharaman said that the Modi government has taken steps to recover money through various steps such as seizing, attaching and auctioning various assets and possessions. She added that extradition requests had been made to the countries the defaulters were living in. FM also mentioned in detail about cases such as that of Nirav Modi, Mehul Choksi and Vijay Mallya. In case of Nirav Modi, she said his immovable and movable properties attached or seized and he is in prison in the UK. In Mehul Choksi's case, she stated that his properties have also been attached and seized. A red notice has been issued against him. An extradition request has been sent to Antigua where he is. Hearing for declaration of Mehul Choksi as fugitive offender is in progress. Meanwhile, in the Vijay Mallya case, Sitharaman said Mallya has been a declared fugitive offender. On extradition request by the Government of India, UK High Court has also ruled for extradition. His properties have already been attached and seized. US President Donald Trump took to Twitter to inform that several states in the country are on their way to reopen, and that too safely. The US President said that Texas is ready to resume its working in phases from the 1st of May. He also referred to Texas Governor Greg Abbott's plan of 3-phased opening of the states. Restaurants, retailers, movie theaters and malls in-state will be open to the public till their 25% capacity to allow the practice of social distancing. The stay-at-home order in Texas will expire on April 30th, but bars, salons, gyms will still remain closed. Meanwhile, President Trump has said the US was considering having passengers on international flights from coronavirus hotspots be tested for the virus. Meanwhile, the US has reached yet another troubling milestone, as confirmed coronavirus cases topped 1 million on Tuesday. According to the Johns Hopkins University, over 58,356 fatalities due to COVID-19 have been reported. The total number of people recovered stands at 1,15,572. Meanwhile, the U.S. Air Force's elite flying squad, the Thunderbirds, and the Navy's Blue Angels flew over New York and New Jersey to thank first responders, military personnel, and essential workers who have been on the front lines of the novel coronavirus pandemic. The flying demonstration squadrons made a formation of 6 F-16C D Fighting Falcon and 6 F-18C D Hornet aircraft for the 40-minute flyover. And the coronavirus death toll has reached 21,678 in the UK. The United Kingdom has the 5th highest death toll in the world. The total number of infected cases is over 1,60,000. Health Minister Matt Hancock on Tuesday said that in view of the current situation, there is no short-term end in sight for the lockdown. Hancock added that Britain would publish data on deaths in care homes and in the community every day from today onwards. He also said that the UK was one of the leading countries in the race to find drugs able to combat coronavirus symptoms, and a new phase of clinical trials involving one possible treatment had begun on Tuesday. He added that the death and infection rate was not low enough to contemplate reopening of schools. Meanwhile, hospitals, train stations and fire brigades fell silent across the UK on Tuesday as a tribute to the National Health Service and other key workers who have died from COVID-19. 98 health and care service workers in the UK are known to have lost their lives after testing positive for the virus. In view of the nationwide lockdown in France, French lawmakers adopted a government proposal to ease the lockdown, which has been in place since mid-March. The plan, which was already presented earlier in the session by French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe, was approved by members of parliament, 368 to 100. As an outcome, France will soon begin to ease the lockdown from May 11th to avoid an economic meltdown. The plan entails the progressive reopening of schools, public transport and other businesses. However, restaurants, cafes, cinemas and concert halls will still remain closed. Public gatherings will be limited to 10 people at a time. However, Prime Minister Philippe warned that infections would spiral higher if the country moved too swiftly. As of now, 23,694 people have died from the new coronavirus, although the number of hospitalizations and those admitted in intensive care continued in a steady decline. The number of cases, however, reached 1,69,053. And the number of deaths from the coronavirus epidemic in Italy climbed by 382. While the total number of people infected since the start of the outbreak topped 200,000 as 2 lakhs. However, the daily tally of new infections stood at 2,091. The daily death toll of 382 was the highest since Saturday. And Italy's total number of fatalities since its epidemic came to light on February 21st now stands at 27,359. The second highest in the world after that of the US. The total of officially confirmed cases, which includes those who have died and recovered, amounts to 2,01,505, the third highest global tally behind those of the US and Spain. As Italian cities prepared for a cautious, gradual reopening after the country's Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte announced the coronavirus lockdown to start being lifted on May 4th, some major cities adopted new measures of social distancing. In Milan and in Rome, social distancing signs were placed in stations and on buses and metro carriages, as well as tests were also run to regulate access in stations and trains. Blue circles were drawn on platforms in order to keep passengers 1 meter apart from each other. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez on Tuesday announced a 4-phased plan to lift the lockdown enforced on the nation after the outbreak, with an aim to return to normalcy by the end of June. Lifting of the measures would begin on the 4th of May and vary from region to region depending on different factors. The total fatalities rose to 23,822 in the country meanwhile, with the daily increase coming down from Monday's 331. Meanwhile, the number of infections mounted to 2,32,128. Meanwhile, after a month in bed at the ICU, Philippe, a 60-year-old coronavirus survivor, danced to the rhythm of Sergio Dalma with the help of physiotherapists. Philippe is going through a rehabilitation process to recover the strength of his muscles to walk normally again. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of the news for the hearing impaired. Namaskar.